Global colors, global fonts, tied to the P to the O, GRAPHY, typography. What does it all mean? Custom fonts, custom colors. Do you ever get confused when you have all these settings available to you in your theme or your template or something else or Elementor, and you start to think, well, if I pick a color or a font for X and I pick it for Y, which one takes precedent and do I even need to use them? We're going to start looking into that in a little bit more detail and going through some examples and see how it changes on the page. Hey, I'm Imran, Web Squadron. I hope you like, subscribe and follow us so you can keep up to date with so much glorious stuff about Elementor and WordPress to help you, your clients and your business. Okay, so that's what we're all about. Make sure you like and subscribe. I know lots of you are not subscribing or liking and it hurts. Well, not really, but you know, it hurts. Okay, so what I'm showing you over here is that I've already opened up a brand new page in Elementor. I've completely reset this WordPress site so that we didn't have any previous typographies infecting the site because we had some preset settings. What I've got is I've set some global colors. Obviously, to do global colors, you go over to here, you go to site settings, you hit global colors and you pick your colors. I've got primary red, secondary is blue, text is like a dark charcoal color, and accent is great, and I'll explain those in a moment. But before you do anything with any of your fonts or colors or typography, what you really want to be doing with Elementor, especially if you're using Hello, is go over to your WordPress settings, basically your dashboard, Elementor, settings, go to the general tab. It's going to be the first tab you open, and make sure you have unticked the default colors and default fonts. Because if this is ticked, you are now disabling the Elementor default colors and fonts, and there is a chance that when your theme or whatever updates, there is always a chance that could override what you have in Elementor fonts and colors. Okay, it can happen. And if I ever hear anyone go, I just updated Elementor or my theme or something, and the colors all went blue, well, usually, not all the time, but usually it's because you haven't unticked these boxes here. So make sure you do that. Okay, I'm not going to say it again, but make sure you do it. Right, now let's just go back to the colors. Don't worry about the fonts we have here at the moment, okay, or the styling. Over here, we have headers. This is literally the header tab. Here it is, heading, and I've duplicated it. This is H1. This is the exact same thing as above, but this time H2, H3, H4. Then we go down to div, span, paragraph. Okay, pretty self-explanatory there. All the different headers. Over here, we have now the text from here, text editor. And again, when I pulled this over, I decided to give them category. I went down all of these categories here. Okay, so text header 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, pre-formatted and paragraph. Yep, are we good with that? I then added in a icon because the colors do affect different elements and widgets. I also added in an accordion. So this is the accordion closed. It's red. You open it, it goes a grey colour, and you got some text there. I also added in a list, the icon list, which is like a list item, right? And there's 2 there. And I also added in a button. And we have the button, grey background, white text. Yeah, are we good so far? Now, if we go back over to our hamburger, it makes me hungry, hamburger, we go to site settings, global colours, there's our colours. Now, the primary colour touches your headers and your icons. So watch this. If I go over here to the red and I now change this to be an orange colour, look at that. All of the headers changed. Doesn't matter if it was a span or a paragraph, it's using the header widget. They changed. Even the icons changed, and the icons over here. So your primary is for your headers, okay? And it does a few other stuff, but I'm focusing on what 99% of us use. Headers, icons, change. Let's just put that back to red. Okay. What about the secondary? Well, look, here's a clue. It touches subheadings as well, but it's list items it mainly touches. So if I go over here and I change this to be green, look at that. The icon list has now changed. So again, I hope that is clear. So the secondary doesn't change a huge amount in relation to the primary. It just changes the list items. So you could go, well, what's the point of that? because you might not be using icon lists, but that's all it does. The text one obviously changes the text, but watch this. I'm going to go in and make this pink, right? Like so. So there you go. You can now see the text has all changed because it's the text editor and the text that sat in the accordion, right? Because that is technically text as well within there. So you've got to get your head around the fact that your primary is your headers and your icons, your secondary is your list items, your text is your text, and the accent, let's put this one back to like the dark colour there, the accent is going to be your buttons and the headers for your toggle and your accordion and things like that. So if I change this accent to now be a dark green colour, or like that, the accordion title or header has changed to green, as has the buttons. So I hope this clarifies the global colours. Of course, whatever global colours you pick here, you can modify on the fly. So I might go, yeah, I've picked it there, but I'm going to go into this button and I'm going to make it a red button. And this is a yellow button, and this is an orange button. But from the off, when you add in a new button, it will always go to that green colour. Let's just put that back to a light grey, like so. Okay, so that's what that image is there. I know it's not exactly the same, but it's getting you to understand global colours. This is what they do. Are we okay and understood with that? Great, you can all go away now. No, let's crack on. What about global fonts? Now, this is a bit of a funny one. If I go to my primary, I've already set this to be roboto condensed. Okay, so look, right, sorry, let me backtrack. I've set this to be roboto condensed. If I change it to be, what is that one? Rochester, is that Rochester? Yeah, Rochester. Look, did you see the headers all changed? The icon doesn't change, but the, so the headers all changed. If I put it back to roboto condensed, like that there, the headers go back again. All right, so are we clear there? That is how you set your font. But what is interesting is that if I start to change the size, nothing happened. Isn't that peculiar? Nothing actually happened. So I'm just going to put this back to be just delete. There's no size there. All it did was change the font. You can also affect the weighting of the font. So there you go. I put it to 200. We'll put it back to 600. I could go over here and do transformation, but watch this. It did not change. So there are some aspects of it where it's a little bit weird in what it does. So it's good for setting the standard font and the weighting. Remember that. Global colors for the color. The global font is more about the family and the weighting. Okay, yeah, you can do the, I mean, even here, letter spacing. It's not doing anything. So it's kind of a bit of a like a brain freeze moment. You go, well, why is it not doing it? Fix it! Well, no, you can't really fix it because that's just the way it is. Okay, so that's your primary. The secondary, I'm going to change this now. Remember this, right? This is meant to touch your list item, okay? I'm going to change this to be, let's pick something really weird. Let's go for Racing Sands 1. I've picked Racing Sands 1. Nothing has changed there. So the secondary global color touched this here. But look, it's not changed. So now I go to like 700. The list item is still the same one. And this is where my brain really like goes, what is going on? But that's just the way it is. So when it comes to global settings, I don't worry too much about the secondary. I find the secondary color and the secondary font is a little bit, for me, negligible. I don't really bother with it too much, okay? It's a little bit like, move on, walk on by, don't worry about it, okay? Let's now go to the text. The text one, obviously, it's currently roboto. Let's change this to be, let's go for Racing Sands 1. You see that? Now, now the list item has changed. So this is where like you go, right, so the secondary color changes the list item. But if you want to change the text, you got to use the text. And I don't know if that's like an afterthought or why is that like that, but that's just the way it is. But look, it's changed your text, your paragraph, and the text within your accordion. Okay, the pre-formatted never does anything. The pre-formatted is just like, hey, let's throw a typewriter into Elementor And it will never change because from the beginning of time, this is how typewriters work. That's just how it is. Let's leave the text as Racing Sans for now, so we can see it in action, okay? If I now go back to my go back to the text, we can also affect the font size as well. It's not going to do much because it's Racing Sans, so that was a bit of a bad choice. Now the accent. If we now go over here, I've already picked Rock Salt. Okay, so I'm now going to pick, let's go for Revalia. And the font there, it's a little bit faint because it's grey, but that's now changed to be the Revalia font. And I can go in and change the size of it as well. So I could go in here, there you go. You probably can't tell, but 900, it's now made it bolder. Let's just put it to 400 for now. Okay, so in effect, that is what the primary, secondary, text, and accent global fonts are doing. Yeah? Okay, so global colors, yep, pretty easy. Global fonts, yeah, it doesn't work completely how you think it's going to work, but you know what it's doing. That now means across your website, you've got consistency. And if you or your client goes, oh man, I don't want red, I want orange. Fine, you pick it, and wherever you use that primary color, ding, 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 it changes. They might come back and say, I don't want Roboto condensed, I want Montserrat. Fine. Done. It saves you having to go through page after page, elements, columns. You know, imagine you've got a 100-page website and you haven't used templates. You got to go through systematically changing it. Oh dear, that's going to take a long time, right? So why don't you do it here? Save yourself the time and become the master of what you're doing. Right, now let's go to the typography. Because again, people go, well, you got global fonts. You pick your typography. Why have I now got typography again? And this is the one that really got me going, well, do I even need to touch that? Because now I've done my global fonts and global colors. If I want to change it on the fly, I'll change it on the fly when I'm working on the page. Well, that should be enough. But let's investigate and see what this does. So, if I go to body and I pick text color, well, I can pick one of my colors. So let's pick primary. Nothing's really happened there. Okay, what about my typography? Right, I'll tell you what, let's pick primary. Again, nothing has happened there. And this is a bit of a strange one, I find, in that if you've got, say, like a post widget that you're using for your content, this is where it can often change that content. So you've got a post widget. If I change that to now be the primary color and the primary font, it will apply that to the post widget. So you've got to get your head around with where is this working. And this is why sometimes I do steer clear of the typography setting. Now let's move on to the link. If you had a link, I haven't got a link in here. So shall we add one in? Let's save change. Let's just add a link in, okay? Just so we understand this better. In fact, we'll do it to text header 6. We're going to click on here. We're going to click a link and we're just going to go for... In fact, we don't even have a page on it because I reset everything, didn't I? Awesome. This page is called Awesome, by the way. Right. So that now has a particular color because hello will give it like this turnipy, rhubarby, whatever color turnip is, that kind of color. I think it's not turnip, it's rhubarb, isn't it? Oh, I don't know. Right. Let's go back into our site settings. Let's go to typography. Okay. I've now got a link. If I go over here and I click here and I pick blue, my link is now my primary color. Of course, when you have global colors and global fonts, you're not stuck to just the 4 they give you. You can add more colors and more fonts. You do know this, right? You can add another like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different variations for fonts and global colors and double click it and give it a name. You can do that. So I've now decided to give it a primary color. I could go to my typography and I could, if I want, pick a completely different typography now. So I'm now overwriting, so I've gone for Arial. Or I could go over here and I could pick secondary. So, or let's not go for secondary, let's go for accent. So that's now the Revalia font, remember? So you can use your global fonts and colors to start assigning things to particular types of settings. So every time I bring in a link, it will be blue and it will have that font applied. Is that making sense? What about our header 1? Right, I'm going to go to header 1 and I'm going to pick blue. Now pay attention with this, okay? I'm then going to change my typography to be, let's go for something totally weird. Let's go for, here we go, one of these fonts, curly calligraphy, right? And I'm now also going to give it a size of 50. No, let's go for 100. That was ridiculous. Let's not do 100. Let's go for 50. Okay, now, blink and you miss it moment. What has that done? When you changed the color, it only changed the color for the text where you've made it a header 1. It didn't do it for header 1. Get your head round this. When I changed the typography, the font family, it changed it for the text header. So the color and the font that I changed only did it on the text header. But if I go over to typography and I say, okay, let's just make it 10 in size. Oh, sorry, I did that for the link then. That wasn't meant to. I wasn't meant to do that for the link. Let me do it over here. Let me just make the header 1 10. It changes the size for the header 1 and the text header 1. Again, you've got to get your head round thinking about this. And I find that if you start doing typography and doing this, there is a chance that you can start to blow your brain up a little bit and go, whoa, well, what have I changed now? So just pay attention that if you set a size here, we'll go with 40, it's going to change it to the header 1 across the board. But when you change the color and the font, it will only do it for the text header, not header, right? So if I go to header 2 and I now pick black, no, not black, let's pick the light gray, it changes it for the text header, not the header. If I change the font family to be, let's go with Alpha Slab 1, it changes it for the text header, not the header. But if I go in and I now say, right, I'm going to give you a size of 20, it does it for both, right? You may want to play this back multiple times and just stare at the screen. You know, get the biggest TV screen you can find, a cinema screen, put this on Zoom and just stare at this and get your head around it, okay? It can mess your brain up, but this is how it operates. And the same goes with 3, 4, 5, and 6. So, if I start to modify the colors on here or the font family, it touches the text headers, not the headers. But if you touch the size, it touches both. So, let us conclude in this wonderful moment today. The global colors, you start with 4 and you can add more. Okay, and if for anyone out there that's not used to doing that, add color. I'm going to give it a name and say, whoa. And I'm going to give this a green color like so, right? Same with global font. You don't have to use just what they give you. You could click here, give it a word, and you might say button font or whatever. And then you're going to pick a font, assign it, and when you come to do buttons, you might pick a particular font size or style for it. When you come to typography, though, you can pick global colors or global fonts using the globe to keep things consistent. And that is what I recommend you do. And I recommend that the only time you touch this button here, the typography, is when you are now starting to mess around with the size. But what you got to remember is that the colors only touch the text header and not the headers. But it does not matter because when you're designing a website, let's just click update. Okay, back to header. When you go to say header 3, I'll go to style and I'll say, okay, I want it to be green. Or I'll pick a completely different color, whatever I want, okay? And I can change the style as well. So let's go for risque and let's just do that size there. So you're not restricted to the global colors and fonts. That is your starting point. And then what you do is you can do it on the fly. And I find that is easier to do for me. Do your global colors and font. I don't bother with the typography setting. I do that on the fly. Why? Because once I've done this once, okay, I can just copy this and I might go, okay, I'm going to use it in another section. So let's go to this section here. Whoop, let's zoom me down and I'm going to paste it here. So every time I now use that header anywhere on my website, it's always going to look like that, right? I can put it on another page, another column, wherever I want. I've made it consistent my way. That was out of tune, wasn't it? My way. But anyway, that's what you would do. So global colors and fonts, important, use them, Typography, not so much. In fact, the only time I use typography is when I want to mess around with when I've put a link, because I don't want that purpley, murky colour. I want it to be a little bit more vibrant and, hey, click me! I want it to be a bit more exciting, okay? But that's, you're going to do it to the style you want to set with your website. So I hope that has clarified a little bit about global colours and fonts and typography, and how maybe the typography is not so important. Do it on the fly, and then when you copy and paste, you're going to have consistency. I hope that helps you. Please, please do comment. If you don't like what I said or how I deliver this, please let us know in the comments. Don't dislike this video. Please let us know. We want to learn and improve. But if you like, subscribe, then subscribe, and follow. You know, I'll look over my shoulder and I'll see you and wave, but do follow, and I'll see you soon.